Welcome to Dark Woods Paranormal, brought to you and produced by Unbox Media LLC. I am your host, Gabriel Von Graves, and alongside me, the enigmatic Raven Knight. Together, we journey beyond the veil of the ordinary into a world where reality meets the supernatural. Each week, we guide you through tales of the relentless spirits, shadowy cryptids, and conspiracy theories that challenge what we think we know. Whether drawn to folklore, urban legends, or forces that have haunted humanity for centuries, Dark Woods Paranormal offers stories that captivate and disturb. Stories that might just keep you awake at night. So listen closely as we explore the secrets buried in shadows. Step into the darkness with us. This is Dark Woods Paranormal. Let the journey begin.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Gabriel Von Graves, and sitting next to me is Raven Knight. We usually don't do episodes together, but we had the chance to investigate the Sallie House.
This is a very special occasion, actually. We are literally driving home from our investigation at the Sallie House, which was last night.
And it did not disappoint.
It did not, but we are going to get into that.
Absolutely.
We're going to get into what happened. But before we get into all of that, what we should probably tell everybody is what we thought was going to happen when we were going into the Sallie House.
So what I thought was going to happen is I assumed it was just an older house being rented out as a haunted house, and we were going to sit there for hours upon hours upon hours, pack up early, and head to our VRBO.
Yeah, and here's the thing about that. I was really hoping that something would happen, you know? I was really hoping we would have some activity, even though there was no documented case of a little girl named Sallie dying in the house or anything else really happening. I just really hoped, going in with hope, you know?
And I was under the assumption just a regular house trying to make money off of it's haunted, rent this place.
Right. So we drove to Kansas. We'd never been to Kansas.
7.5 hour drive.
Yep. 7.5 hour drive. We get to the place that we are staying at. And I would love for you to actually tell everybody what happened when we got there, because that's a story in itself.
So we were able to meet the owner. He asked for us to meet him first before we checked in. Gave us a tour of the facility. Very, 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 very nice place. Nice guy. And he said, I see you're only staying for one day. And I said, yeah, we're podcasters. We are actually going to be investigating the Sallie House. And he said, oh, the Sallie House. Yeah, that's a good house. I'm like, yeah. He goes, paranormal, huh? And I said, yep. Assuming he was going to get into something weird or say, oh, great, bunch of podcasters, ghosts, spooks are going to be spending the night here. Instead, he goes, I have a collection of haunted items.
So I live in a haunted house.
That's what he did, with a collection of haunted items. And of course, I said, do tell.
And instead of telling, he decided he was going to show us.
And he lived right next door, and I said, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, so we did. We went into this guy's house, and it was something else. I mean,
it was a mansion, first of all.
It was a mansion. Yeah, well, I guess we didn't really mention that. It was one of the craziest places I've ever been into.
1800 woodwork by hand. It was absolutely gorgeous.
It was.
Big drapery. He had, how big was that dining room? How many people did it sit?
30 people.
30 people in a beautifully well done dining room. Everything was per era. Everything was the way it looked when whoever built that house had it to look.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. The gentleman was such a nice guy. However, he allowed us to see his collection. And it was absolutely fantastic. He had a lot of haunted items, took us all through his house, took us upstairs. We got to see all his real haunted items. He had Bruce Campbell's head from
Evil Dead.
From Evil Dead when it morphed.
Great.
That was awesome. Yeah. A Freddy Krueger glove, which is cool. And then he had a bunch of very haunted items, a lot of nautical uh, parts from people. You know, if you lose your leg, they put a prosthetic on. He had very old, ancient prosthetic our legs and arms, and he also had a licensed shrunken head, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, that was really cool.
And then he had a bunch of dolls and a whole collection of medieval tapestries and paintings that were haunted.
Yeah.
Actually had a history of paranormal activity. Then he was nice enough to take us to his basements where he kept his coffins and his
Legit
headstones.
coffins.
Yeah, and they were legitimately coffins and headstones. So that's how we started out the afternoon.
So the interesting part of that is like, you know, when somebody's like, let me show you something that's haunted, you know.
We just assumed it was like one or two items.
Yeah, no, this was
An hour and a half tour.
The entire house had haunted stuff in each room. And, you know, we're paranormal researchers, investigators, whatever you want to call it, but, you know, you don't always believe that.
No.
Like, we
No.
run into plenty of people, and no offense to anyone, but we run into plenty of people that say that they have a haunted doll.
Right. My
or something
mirror's
like that.
haunted.
Yeah. Things like that. And you just don't always get the vibe, but
No. This place, this guy was legit. You could feel it when you walked in, the pressure. You feel it in your sinuses when you're up in the attic. You felt creeped out by it, where it really was a real feeling, and not just hyped up feeling.
Yeah, these paintings, like it literally, like there was a painting that literally just made me. I just was drawn to it. You know, very much drawn to it before he even said that it was
Right.
a haunted painting. Not everything in his house was haunted. You know,
No.
he had some other things that weren't haunted.
But they're very, very old, very well built. I
It was a
love
beautiful house.
looking at the house.
Yeah.
And I think the best of it all is actually meeting that guy. He was absolutely a wonderful person.
And I made friends with a raven.
And he had
Which
a
is
live raven.
Yeah. Yeah, I get to hold a raven. Which is pretty
I
pretty
flew
awesome.
off twice, 3 times maybe,
Yeah,
and then he finally got it to, he probably stunk or something. And then, well, why don't you tell them what we did next?
So, you know, we left that. We left that place and we were like, wow, that was a crazy way to start the night.
Yeah, it was.
Now we're off to the Sallie House.
We are off to the Sallie
So
House at this
we
point.
go to the Sallie House, and this is where we meet our good friends, Chumming with the Spirits. And to tell you a little bit, if you do not follow or listen to Chumming with the Spirits, I of course recommend.
Highly recommend.
Not just because they're our friends, but they are super professional.
They're funny.
They're funny. They're super good at what they do. You know, and we met them at the Kansas City Paracon,
Which was also fun.
which was at the end of February.
Yeah.
Started actually our cons for the year.
Met
And
Dustin Perry.
that's where we met Dustin Perry.
Yep.
But they actually came over to our booth
They did.
and introduced themselves. They did a little bit of a live with us.
Yep.
And ever since that day, we've been friends with them.
Absolutely.
I've popped on some lives with them. I've talked to them quite often. Actually, we do a little bit of cross promoting for each other, and we of course are now probably going to collab together
I
a
hope
ton.
so. I love hanging out with
I
you
really-
guys.
yeah, so it was great seeing them in person.
Yeah.
But they actually invited us to do this with them.
They did, yep.
This was their idea. They said, "You guys, we'd love for you to come to Kansas."
And we're like,
investigate
we're
the
on
Sallie
it.
House.
We'll be happy to do it.
So that's what we did. We met them, and we, you know, they were getting all their stuff set out in the house, and we did a little walkthrough of the house to see what we could see or feel in the house. I mean, that's always a good idea to
Your initial walkthrough, and what
layout.
we're doing when we do the initial walkthrough is we're just trying to get a baseline. How does it feel?
Yeah.
Where everything is, because once the lights go out, you can't see anything.
Yeah.
And then just kind of see, I mean, do we pick up anything? So we walked through the entire house. It was just your average older home,
Yeah.
you know. I, at that point, I didn't have any feelings. I just thought, well, You know, probably could use a better cleaning, but other than that, you know, it's just a regular house.
Same thing here. Like I didn't get any kind of feeling from it. It didn't feel heavy. It didn't feel scary.
Right.
It felt like a house.
It did.
And ironically, JD from Chumming with the Spirits said the same thing.
Yep.
Like and I think even Parachum said the same thing too. Like I don't think that they even had any kind of special feelings about the place either. I think all of us were like, okay, this could be a very long night.
Right. So I think we're all preparing each other for, you know, a game of cards or something to keep each other entertained, because we all assumed it was just going to be a boring night.
Yeah.
And then they decided, hey, let's have an intro.
Yeah.
Let's just sit down and talk about your first initial reactions. So, you know, in true spirit, Raven, I said, hey, Raven first, right? And she sat down and we took about 8 takes. The reason why we took about 8 takes, because the first one actually introduced an orb.
Yeah.
We were outside sitting on some lawn furniture, and we had an orb go from the bottom of this table straight up in movements, just straight up in a movement that a bug wouldn't move. We were outside. There wasn't any wind, no dust, and dust would come down, not up.
Right.
And then continue.
Well, I was going to say we should say something about orbs. Like, you know, the majority of orbs are going to be dust or bugs or something like that. It's not...
Generally, they're bullshit. They're
Genuinely,
really,
yeah.
There's nothing really about them.
And Dave, so the OG, calls himself OG on Chumming with the Spirits, he does not believe in orbs.
Nope.
Does not. He
Nope.
thinks that they're bullshit.
Which you should.
And,
Yeah.
You know, and honestly, in any of these situations, you're not going to jump to it's paranormal right away because I see something. Like
Absolutely.
you're going to try to debunk it, but the way that this thing moved and the way that it just didn't make sense. And even OG, who does not believe in orbs, is like, that is super strange.
That's interesting, is what he
Yeah.
said.
Yeah, that's
So I said, you know what, no problem. Let's just take another take.
Do it again.
You know? So Raven was sitting in the same position, and you know, I positioned myself, so I'm kind of looking right at her with the with our camera and the gimbal and all that. And she starts recording, and then off to the right of her, I see something that's kind of moves. Like you guys have seen the movie Predator, you get that kind of abstraction in like air where it just kind of flutters a little bit. So I was over there and I was watching. I stopped her again, you know, and then I look over at OG and he goes, "What'd you see?" I said, "I saw something like Predator. You see the Predator?" Where it just got. He goes, "Yes, I saw that too." And we were outside in the middle of daylight. This guy had been what, 5 o'clock?
Yeah, I would probably say around 5.
So
5,
a
6
little bit
o'clock.
not typical for investigations, you know. Usually haunted houses usually involve being in the house, which is haunted. We weren't even in the house yet.
And in the daytime.
In the daytime. So
Yeah.
that kind of we all kind of looked at each other and we're like, well, this is going to be an interesting evening.
Yeah, we were like, that's a great way to start.
It is.
Great way to start.
Absolutely was.
And speaking of starting, I mean, that's kind of we were preparing ourselves, got everything ready, all of our gear set,
Yep.
things ready to go, and our investigation started probably a little bit after 7 o'clock.
A little slow.
A little slow at first.
Yeah.
You know, it's not quite dark out.
No.
You know, it's still daylight.
Right.
We decide we're gonna just take a room. There's a couple different rooms. Unfortunately, we couldn't go in the basement, which I'm still a little bummed about.
Right.
Because that place is supposed to have a lot of activity.
Right.
But so, you know, JD is in one room, and so Gabriel and I decided to go in another room. You know, there was one room which was, they said, like a guest room.
Yep. Way in the back.
I didn't get super much from that.
No, I walked through it. It felt like a room, you know.
There was nothing really in that room that I was interested in, like that really called out to me, I guess. So we decided to go into what was the master bedroom. That room just seemed to have something else.
Right. So we sat down.
Yeah, we were sitting in the closet
There was
in that room.
yeah, there was a closet first.
Yep.
And there was we had REM pod and EMF detector.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And we sat there for how long?
I don't know. We sat there for a while. We were trying to see what we could get with the REM pod.
Right.
There are toys or like stuffed animals.
Yeah, set up
Stuffed
because,
animals
I
and
mean,
dolls.
they set it up to attract Sally. You know?
Sally, the ghost of Sally.
Right, they go Sally.
And we didn't get much in that closet at all.
Got bored.
Yeah, it was that was about it.
Yeah.
So
about, 15, 20 minutes later, we went outside of the closet. Sorry. And then we sat in the master bedroom. There's 2 chairs and a bed.
Yep.
I sat on one chair, and then on to my right, Raven sat in that chair with REM pods.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So we actually put the REM pod. We had a REM pod on the bed, and then 2 cat balls, and I had our K2 meter.
And of course, there's a camera in there. The Chumming with the Spirits went ahead and installed cameras everywhere ahead of time. I mean,
Right.
we really appreciated that.
Yeah, they were all set up
They were.
all over the house. So
And they have a
really,
wonderful
cameras-
operation, by the way.
They
I
sure
thought
do.
they're true professionals.
Sure did. So we were sitting there, and the K2 meter starts to go off a little bit.
Yep.
Now you have to understand something about K2 meter. Like, so normally it was gonna pick up electromagnetic fields. That's kind of what it's looking for. Is like
Right.
any
A lot
electronics
of false
and stuff
positives.
like that. Yeah.
Somebody farts in a room and it goes off or something,
Not quite with those,
Well,
but you know,
close.
like if your phone, maybe your phone might set it off, or
Right.
something that's like has high electromagnetic field.
Yeah.
And it starts to kind of go through you got green and yellow and red, right? It starts to kind of go up and down a little bit between that green and yellow space, and okay, sure. But at some point, and I don't know exactly what we were saying, we were just trying to get attention. I mean, like we were trying to ask questions.
That we were talking to
We were
it.
talking to, if anyone's here in the room with us, if anyone,
We don't ever provoke anything. I
No, we
don't
don't
think that's
believe-
ever
we don't
a
believe
good tactic. So, we just sat down, very gentle. Hey, anybody here? Are you okay that we're here? It must be disturbing having all these people come in with all this equipment you don't recognize. We're just trying to start from the beginning.
Yeah. And we start to get a little bit of action at this point.
Right.
Yeah. And this is really not even super late
No.
in the evening yet. I mean,
It's
it's
just
probably
dusk.
like
you know?
8 o'clock maybe.
Yeah.
But the REM pod starts to go off.
Yep.
And the REM pod kind of freaked out.
Yeah, not just went off. I mean, it just
It
went
freaked out.
absolutely crazy.
And that started that.
Yeah.
Because
So
from
the
there,
REM pod's going off, and the boys from Chumming with the Spirits, of course, they came in, they checked on us. They're like, REM pod's going on. And it didn't go off for how long?
for a while.
Yeah, we sat there, just kept on talking about it.
So-
It did go off, and I said, hey, if you go off, because, I want to make sure it's just
Yeah.
functioning,
Yeah.
I will sit on the bed with you. I'll have a seat on the bed.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, we do try to make sure that we can debunk things too.
Oh, absolutely.
So if the REM pod's going off and we don't know what it is,
Well, we don't want to waste our time on something.
so it's always like make sure that, maybe it's not somebody in the room causing it to go off, or
Or interference
phone
from a
off,
fan. They had
anything that's
horrible ventilation, so they had fans going ahead of time.
Yeah.
So we kind of shut off all the fans, make sure there's nothing running around it.
I know at one point too, because our REM pod kept doing this, like freaking out, they actually changed the battery in it
They did.
because they thought, well, maybe there's something just up with the REM pod.
And then we changed REM pods from one room to the other.
Yeah, just to make sure too.
And as soon
Same
as
thing.
a couple seconds after it was on the bed and it settled down, it just started going off again.
And it actually seemed like every time that I would say something about sitting in that chair,
Yes.
it would go off and it would freak out. Or anytime that like Gabriel would get up to leave
Yeah, I was
the room,
it slowed down, nothing would happen. And I'm like, well,
oh, I'm gonna leave,
I'm going to go downstairs. And as soon as I hit by the door, it went off again.
Yeah. So we're like, okay, that's interesting.
Right.
So all of these things are happening, and at this point, like OG from Chumming with Spirits, he is now interested. He wants to
Right.
see what's going on because, they've got a command center downstairs.
Yeah.
And so the guys are downstairs and they can watch and see what we're doing, and he wants to come up too and kind of hang out. So I think he actually came up the first time you left the room.
I did, because I went downstairs.
And it was freaking out. And so he comes up and he's, I don't know if he just didn't want me to be alone in the room or what, but he comes up to see what's going on. And he sits on the floor near the bed.
Right.
And I'm still in the chair, and he's on the opposite end near the bed on the floor. And it's freaking out again. It goes off again.
And at this time, I'm actually downstairs in the kitchen where Central Command is, with all the camera feeds are, and we're watching it on video.
Yep.
And they had, what, 8 cameras?
Something like that.
And they called me, they're like, Gabriel, you got to see this. So I'm like, well, what? And, you know, I orbs. I'm like, oh, well, you know, they're dust particles. He goes, no, you got to watch this. There's an orb that comes in and just explodes into like 100 different orbs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, they're dancing everywhere. And I'm like, whoa.
And we're not, like, again, orbs can be.
Yeah, I'm like, orb. I'm like, yeah, dust, you know, whatever. So, you know, he goes, you should go back up there and hit the bed. So I go back up there, you know, and I'm moving around. I'm slapping the bed, the mattress, to see if any dust comes up. And at this point, I said OG downstairs to take a look at the videos too.
Yeah.
Since he's sitting up in the room, maybe he has an idea. And he's down there, he's looking at the video, and then he comes back up, and we both look at each other, and we just keep on talking to this device.
Yeah. So, I want to say this was probably the point. Like, you guys are still kind of hanging out.
Yeah.
And doing that, but this might be the point when you get that smell.
Yes. So, OG's over by the entrance of the room. I'm sitting in the chair that I originally sat in, and he starts sniffing around, you know. And I look at him like, well, what's going on, man? And he goes, I smell something. And then he accused me to go over there because he didn't want to tell me what it was, because, you know, that way it works better. If I smell the same thing he does, then it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I started smelling around, and I'm like, oh, that smells like perfume. And he goes, yeah, it does. And then Raven comes over, and she's smelling. She goes, oh, that's floral. And I'm like, yeah, it
It
is.
smelled like floral.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very floral.
And it would travel through a kind of the hallway in the room we were at.
Yeah, it did. It did. When it was. I can't wait till you guys see the video. Actually, it's really funny.
Yeah.
I hope they keep that in. But there's a part where you are literally smelling the wall.
I am. I'm smelling the wall because it's a very, I mean, it's you can just smell it. It's a lady's perfume.
Yeah.
And it smells like roses. And then
Yeah.
I just go, okay, this smells wonderful. Your perfume smells good.
Yes. Yeah.
And at this point, you know, I think over the walkies, we were called down again. So I'm like, okay, so I go on downstairs to go talk to Central Command, because they called me down to see what's going on with these guys, you know?
Oh, you went down. I was still upstairs.
Yeah, you were
I was just
upstairs
waiting.
with OG.
Yeah.
So I go downstairs, and they're like, Gabriel, you gotta see this. And I'm thinking, okay, all right, he's gonna show me some dust particles flying around the air.
Yeah.
There's this little light that comes from a wall, the same wall I was smelling. It literally comes from the wall, like this orb. You can see this entrail, like this. It has a tail on it, and it goes all the way up the wall, and then washes back down and disappears back in the same place it came. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, oh, do that again, you know? And he plays it again, and I'm like, I gotta go get OG, because OG was right next to me when this was happening. So I went back upstairs, and I said, hey, man, you gotta go downstairs. There's something they want to show you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, like, and then they called me down at some point too.
Yeah.
And that was pretty wild. I mean, you're literally in the video. You're literally smelling the wall,
I
and
am.
as soon as you are done smelling the wall, it comes out of the wall, moves up and does some weird circly thing.
It does.
just
It comes right
moves,
back down.
Yeah. It was.
And it's
crazy.
bright, like not like, you know, a kind of faint little bright. It is luminous, full of bright.
Yeah. It was crazy.
It's absolutely crazy.
So we're getting, you know, at this point, like, we're like, okay, there's some
So-
stuff happening.
And they're telling us, you guys stay upstairs because, you know, we're the only ones making all this stuff happen, you know? And they're like, what is wrong with you two that you attract this?
And then, so another funny part of that is we're okay. So now we're upstairs.
Yeah.
We decide though to go into, I guess what they call is the nursery at this point.
Yeah.
So there's a room in the Sallie house that's dedicated to Sallie, even though Sallie never lived there.
Right. They have dolls, decorated with dolls and that kind of thing.
Stuffed animals and Barbies and stuff. And we're in there, and like the REM pod's still going off really crazy.
It is.
But there's no it's just not stopping at this point. So we're not sure if it's just being defaulty or what is going on with it, because I mean I'm not asking. It's just
doing flickering all over the place.
Yeah, it's going crazy. And then I think at that point, not a ton else was happening in that room, and so we decided.
But we could still hear the REM pod going off in the original master bedroom.
Yeah. I mean, and that one wasn't going as crazy as this other one. So we're at this point, though. I mean, we're getting close. Probably around 10 o'clock ish.
Yep, it's dark now.
It's getting it's dark. We're gonna take a second, so we all take a break.
Let everything kind of settle down a little bit.
Try to figure out like what we want to do from here. What's our next move in the investigation? And so I guess we're all just kind of sitting down there, going over some of the things we've found.
Eating pizza, you know?
Oh, we're hungry.
Yeah.
We get hungry too.
We do.
So we're just trying to figure out what our next moves and steps and things like that are.
Where do you go from here? How do we debunk this? Is this even something? So that's what we're trying to figure out. This isn't real at this point to us, even though it's looked really cool. Like there's got to be
something.
There's got to be something.
But it's I mean,
we're not ready to call it haunted just yet.
And this is where we start to hear some things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's faint, and it almost sounds like maybe somebody's talking.
Yeah.
You have to understand, I'm the only female in this house that we know of.
Right.
And it almost sounds like maybe a female voice.
Childish,
maybe a child voice.
Yep.
It's very faint. But it's like, where you're like, you think you hear something, so you stop. You're like,
and everybody's kind of listening, and everybody in that room heard something.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody,
I thought I heard
nobody knew
footsteps
exactly what it was, though, that we were hearing.
At some point here, too, thought that maybe there was...
Coming down the stairs.
Yeah, and it's like, are you really hearing it? Are you not hearing it?
Right.
And so, being who I am, I'm like, I'm just going to get up and check. So I go to the bottom of the stairs, and I'm kind of just like, bringing my ear, like, is this, am I hearing this or not hearing this? And it's kind of hard to tell. And I just can't stay at the bottom of the stairs. I have to go up the stairs.
Right.
So I start to walk up the stairs, and OG and Gabriel are behind me. And when I say that everything was different, every single thing was different.
So all three of us decided we're still going to go sit down, even though it felt really negative.
It felt...
your lungs,
heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Air was kind of... It had a metallic, I think, taste to it when I was trying to breathe in and out. And it was very oppressive.
So here's the thing. Here's the other thing. Like, when we were up there earlier, we didn't have that feeling. We didn't have the feeling of like... It was like a calming... It wasn't scary.
So at this point, we're like, this feels good.
It wasn't like... I wasn't getting goosebumps.
Yeah.
There was none of that. Like, my heart wasn't beating out of my chest when the REM pod's going. When we came up that set of stairs this time... You could feel halfway up the stairs.
I
was feeling anxious.
Yeah.
Like, my heart was beating.
Guarded.
Very guarded. The room that we had we felt nothing in it all
we couldn't even walk towards it.
We did not want to walk in that room.
Because as you walk up the stairs, when you go up the stairs, on top of the landing, there's Sallie's room, straight ahead, and then on to the right, there's a hallway that goes to the spare bedroom, and then off of that is the hallway that goes to the master. Yeah.
So we, all three of us, who did not feel anything in that guest room.
We all stopped.
Earlier. We did not want to go in there.
Nope.
Each one of us, we were like, no, we don't want to go in there. When I say goosebumps, I mean, you know when you get the goosebumps when you even get them in your knees, like your kneecaps? That's what I was feeling.
You could definitely feel
full
it.
Body jumps.
And it was hard to walk through. It's like you literally had to fight to just move forward.
Yeah.
So we
go in the master though.
We go in the master. We're sitting there, and the REM pod starts going off again. Just starts going crazy. It's OG. I'm sitting back in the original chair. You're sitting back in the chair you're sitting in.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. It just everything was so weird in that room. Like the REM pod, I don't think it wasn't really going off though, was it?
At this point, I believe we were live streaming. Were we not?
No, we were
No,
not.
we were not
We were
doing
not
that.
live streaming at this point. There was
But we're interacting.
just this like heaviness, and
Right.
I want to explain. So in the master, there was that closet that we had sat in earlier with the stuffed animals and
off
stuff.
to the
Yeah. So for some weird reason, and I don't normally say these kinds of things or think, oh, my feelings, I feel like this is over here, but that's literally what I was feeling last night. Is that in that closet, to me, it felt like there was a presence in that closet, but that presence was hiding from the presence that was in the main bedroom.
Exactly. And
That's how I felt.
And I think everybody felt that. You could feel it.
Yeah, it was
just
so.
It was something different,
heavy.
and then you're drawn like something was hiding in that little closet off the master bedroom.
That's exactly how I felt. Like I just was like, my self was drawn to that closet, but like,
Guarded.
no, not guarded. That closet felt like something was hiding in that closet.
Sure.
Because it was scared of whatever was in the room with us, is what I was getting.
So after we sat there
was
for a
crazy.
while, and the K2 meter was pinged, and the REM pod was going off, we decided, well, this feels very uncomfortable. Let's just go downstairs, take a few minute break, and we'll continue on.
Well, and we also had to tell the others because at this point it was just Gabriel, OG, and I who were
And we had
upstairs.
no idea what they were watching.
We didn't even know where they were.
Downstairs,
Like
on the
I know,
cameras.
Parachum was outside.
Yep.
And we didn't even know if they were down and watching us or
Right.
So we go back downstairs and we say, you guys have to go upstairs. You have to do this.
Yeah, you have to.
So yeah. And I know that JD went upstairs. I know he had some experiences. Probably, I don't know if they were like the same as
But
ours.
he did not feel comfortable there. He said he could feel it in his face and on his head. He said he didn't like it.
Yeah, it was something.
So after he came back down, everybody was kind of gathered around in the kitchen watching the videos of these orbs. Just these
everywhere.
I mean,
Everywhere.
and I don't mean just like a few. I meant flying everywhere, zigzagging, and just they would bang into each other and become more. It's just absolutely nuts. And these guys have never seen anything like that, and neither have I.
Yeah, no, not like that.
Yeah.
Not like that. Like normally, I think when you see an orb, it's like, there's one piece of
Right.
particle, whatever.
You're like, that's
unexplained
not-
anomaly.
yeah,
And
right.
it's, or maybe a couple, but this was
True.
a lot.
This was a lot.
So once we have kind of, and this was after midnight, by the way.
Right. And we were trying to compose ourselves, and we're all talking through it, trying to figure out, it felt
Okay.
really kind of negative
That
up
was
there.
weird, yeah.
And they're like, well, let's go back up for another 30 minutes. It was JD.
This is,
They all chose JD, me and you to go up, of course.
no, this is, this is where they're like, okay, now it's time to do one of these Estes sessions.
No, but they wanted us to go up first because remember the bright light.
Oh, yeah, the bright light.
So, they talk us to go back in,
Yeah.
all three of us. So JD, myself, and Raven were like, all right. So we go back up. So I'm sitting there, and so I sit on the bed again, right? Because I had some interaction with the REM pod, and I said, if you stop, I will sit on the bed. So it stopped, and I was like, damn it. And I literally asked it. I said, but please don't stop because I don't want to sit on the bed. And of course it stopped. So I'm like, all right. So I sat on the bed, and all of a sudden it just starts flashing up again, and lights were beeping. And so during this, downstairs, they were watching all these orbs just fly around me everywhere. And then fast forward to us going back up, we were actually live streaming at this point because he had the camera, and he's the one that saw it on me. So we were upstairs live streaming at this point, and JD's sitting in the chair that I was originally sitting in. You're sitting in the chair that you normally sit in, and I'm sitting on the bed. And I'll let you continue on that.
Well,
Dinner's great. So I'm sitting there on the bed, and he's holding. He says, "Do you guys see this? Do you guys see this?" And I'm like, "What's going on?" He goes, "You have a flashlight." I said, I don't have a flashlight on me." He goes, "There's a flashlight on you." I said, I don't have a flashlight. And then I feel this tug, like around my genital areas, like someone's like fixing my pants or something. And then all of a sudden, I stand up because I'm like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And then JD goes, something just flew out of you. And I'm like, "What do you mean?" So, I was like, I want to see this. And so I went downstairs to see the video of it flying out of me. And quite literally on the video, which we will have up, it's like this ball, like you're holding a little flashlight, and it literally comes right out of my jeans and just kind of does a zigzag thing, and it's all over my chest, and it's just acting absolutely crazy, and then it just dissipates.
yeah. I figured you were going to tell that story.
Yeah.
Because that was a you story.
Yeah, it was me story.
It was definitely a you situation. I wasn't there for all of that, so I don't. The flashlight situation.
You were at a different angle. You're sitting,
I did not see this flashlight thing until after when we saw it.
We saw the video.
Yeah. But after all of this is when they're like, okay, we want to do an Estes session.
And this is the part that made me very uncomfortable after seeing that flashlight and stuff, and after feeling the space up there. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this.
Of course, we were nominated to do it.
Of course you were.
We were the ones nominated.
They're like,
to do
hey,
the Estes session. So
Raven and Gabes, you guys can do this.
So
We're
basically,
like,
let's explain what an Estes session is. Normally what they would do is they would you would be blindfolded. You have headphones on. They are noise canceling essentially, so you are not supposed to hear anybody else. And you're putting the headphones into a spirit box.
Right.
So they would be down at the command center asking questions, and then you, because you were the person chosen to go first.
Absolutely.
Or did you volunteer?
No, I've volunteered.
Volunteered. You would be listening to the spirit box and then just saying whatever you heard.
And what the spirit box does, it literally channels through a bunch of radio stations, and it randomly stops, and you hear like little words and stuff as it's scanning through the radio station.
Yep. Yeah. So you're hearing like that white noise sound, and you're also hearing yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So we go back upstairs. So at this point, Gabriel and I go back upstairs. I'm back in my chair. I like that chair.
Yes.
I was back in my chair again. I have a camera. Camera's on Gabriel, and then OG is actually on the staircase, just kind of watching, because this was after like we were up there and it was really just that overall like heavy, creepy feeling.
Yep.
Where, I mean, we were gonna go up, but like at this point we were like, it feels really heavy in this space.
Yeah, I was very nervous.
So,
and I don't think I would have done it all by
super
myself.
nervous.
I don't think I would have.
Yeah, and so OG was kind of watching out for us.
So OG came to the staircase. He was sitting in the staircase.
Yep.
I, of course, was sitting on the bed. And Raven's got the camera right on me, sitting across from the bed in a chair.
Yep. And so, you close your eyes.
Yep.
Got the headphones on.
Yep.
And listening to the spirit box, and you start to say some of the most interesting things.
Yep. And you have to watch the full video when we upload it to hear it for yourself. But it's the kind of thing that you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were some words in there like hang tight was one of like something like I'm coming, or hang tight after that.
Kill.
Actually, I was gonna say the last thing before OG was like, okay,
Yeah, so
Maybe we stop.
OJ comes up, taps me out. He goes, "Yeah, we're done. This is getting a little too dark."
It was
And
dark.
I was just kind of snapping through things. I wasn't thinking. I was just whatever I heard, I would just stay. So I was aware of what I was saying, but I was just spitting out everything. And when you're in that phase, you kind of feel like you're tranced a little bit. And so during this process, I felt very uneasy, like in the back, it's like something was, I felt heavy, like if you had a really heavy backpack on or something like that,
Yeah.
So here I am trying to figure that out, I'm being videotaped, so I don't want to act like I was a wussy, but yet, I'm constant. I have my eyes closed and I'm just snapping through all these words.
So we get done with your session, and then each one of us does our own session, pretty much.
Downstairs, because nobody wants to go
Downstairs.
back
That's funny,
upstairs
we're all,
after
like,
the stuff that
downstairs.
came out of my mouth. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're all downstairs at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
So we each go through our sessions. I
Right.
mean, nothing too crazy. Well, interesting. Maybe a few interesting
Right.
things, but it wasn't anything like your session, that's for sure.
Right.
So we're done. We're done there. And should we tell them what we saw later?
Yeah.
Let's just fast forward to what we saw
Yeah.
on the video.
And this part
of
is the part that makes me super. When I saw this, I got the chills.
Oh, me too.
I was instantly just afraid.
Yeah,
You know.
Me too. And I don't, I want to say, like, I don't think that happens super, super often. And, like, for me, it doesn't really happen super, super
No,
often.
I mean, you feel uncomfortable in places, but it's been a long time since I actually I felt frightened.
This was
you know?
legit, like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Right.
I cannot believe what we caught. That being said, do you want to tell them?
You tell 'em.
Okay, well, there's video of Gabriel on the bed with the headphones, and he's seated in, like, this position, kind of
Crouching.
like you're saying, like, just kind of like this hunched over position.
Yeah.
And
And the reason why I was hunched over again is because I felt a lot of pressure. So I kind of was hunching over because I felt, my back was kind of tensing up. It's like something was pushing me.
yeah. And we see the video. This was later, when Parachum's at command center, he's
Yeah.
in charge of all the cameras and stuff. He's like, you guys really need to take a look at this.
Yeah.
And
And he was uncomfortable.
We were all uncomfortable.
He's like, you guys got to see this,
We were all very
And I think the other guys saw it at this point because they all kind of backed up as we walked into the kitchen, And I'm like, what happened? So we walk in the kitchen and everybody just kind of backs up, and nobody really touches me. They're just like backing up. Go ahead.
So, here's the video. He's sitting on the, like we just said, sitting on the bed, all those things.
Right.
And you can see behind Gabriel, there's a shadow. Right.
Which, first of all, having a shadow in a very black environment,
That's interesting.
it's interesting because there's no light on me to actually do a shadow.
Maybe a little bit of light from the camera, but I really don't think that
Nothing.
camera that I was holding was
No.
emitting enough light to really project that kind of shadow.
Yeah.
That being said, I can't think of what they were using, but they had the detector.
It was a UV light.
No, the detector to see whether
Oh.
or not it was human.
Oh yeah.
Or,
They had a device that would that would track like human figures, and if it
Yeah.
was a person, it would kind of highlight it.
Yeah. And so sometimes, it would just be Gabriel, and then sometimes the shadow would detect, like, as a person.
Yeah.
All that being said, as I'm watching this video, and later Parachum actually would agree with me, we actually came to this together without even really saying it to each other, but we were both like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you said the same thing. So Gabriel's hunched over, and the shadow would
My shadow of me.
Gabriel's shadow
Yes.
would move when Gabriel
Independently. Yes.
didn't. It literally looked like somebody was standing behind Gabriel, and like
Yeah.
this kind of motion, like
Yeah.
just standing there
Yep.
behind him.
And it until you see the video, you don't understand the creepiness of this. It literally, when I would move, it would react slowly, and then it would move independently without me even moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's like, I believe people are like, oh, it's a little glitchy or something, but
And at the same time, they had nothing but orbs filling this complete room. And we're not talking about little tiny specks that you see on TV shows. We're talking about bright, moving orbs, zigzagging all over the place. They had, on one of the videos, they had it kind of going by the door and then stopping before it even got to the door jamb, flipping around and reversing course.
yeah, that one was cool too.
Yeah.
But you know, when we talked about this shadow, like you and I think, well, everybody in that room, but definitely you and I were like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Because that's
Oh
something
my
you
gosh.
just don't see.
You could just like total
Right.
full body chills, heebie-jeebies,
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, like felt super uncomfortable.
And it felt uncomfortable knowing that I had all those orbs around me after I was watching the video, but to know that there was literally my shadow behind me, you know, pushing me down and moving by itself.
By itself is the main kicker for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
gosh, I think
And then, you know, so we all kind of, so you guys are doing your sessions downstairs because nobody wants to go
wants to be
upstairs at this point, right? They're like, we seen the video of Gabe, we don't want to go up there.
no, I
You know?
think we saw the video after
After
their sessions. Yeah.
And then so we decided to, one more time, we were like, well,
Yeah, one
let's
more
go up for a half hour. It was me, you, and OJ, and OG,
yeah.
and we're like, we're gonna
It's
go
the
up.
Three of us.
Yeah, and we're just gonna go up and just do it one more time.
Yeah.
So we walk into the room, and you know it feels, you know, comfortable again. It
Yeah.
doesn't. It was like
The air just cleared.
Yeah, it's
And
clear.
it was like lighter in there.
Right. And I didn't sit on the bed because I was like, no, you know. So I actually sat down in the chair next to the dresser you always sat in, and then you sat in the chair I sat in.
Yep.
And then poor OG sat on the bed.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So we're sitting there and we're like, well, what do we do at this point? So
We had
actually,
no
I was
action.
just sitting in my original chair. You were over at your original chair.
Oh yeah.
And then, so we're talking. We're just, you know, we're just coming up with theories. The portal theories. If somebody dies, and when the soul leaves, there's a theory that it leaves a small portal, a rip in the,
Like a wormhole.
yeah, like a wormhole kind of, or a rip in the veil a little bit
Oh,
that
yeah.
helps things slip through, that things can slip in and out of.
Yeah.
So as we're just talking about life and just having a conversation. There's nothing going on at this point. The REM pods aren't going on. The K2's not going off. And then in front of me, you know, I'm looking at this thing and I'm kind of shocked that this thing. It's like you're in a black room and you can't see anything. Your eyes are adjusting a little bit, but it's a dark room. And I see this mist that's coming together like a form, and it's like right in front of me, and I kind of jump up because it came at me and it startled me. And then I'm like, Raven, did you see that? So, and then, you know, I'm trying, like, you don't see it. It's like right here, you know? So she goes, no, I don't see anything. And I don't want to be that guy, you know, thinking that I'm seeing stuff. So I'm like, well, can you switch with me? And, you know, of course, you said, sure, you know, you rolled your eyes. I can see that. And so
In the dark, you
in the
can see
dark,
that.
you're like, oh, okay, Gabriel. So you're now sitting in my chair. I'm now sitting in your old chair, and we're just constantly talking. And then I'll let you take it from there.
Well, I was gonna say we weren't gonna talk about the fact that you were sitting in the chair and then going.
That was in the other chair. So I'm sitting in Raven's chair. We just switched chairs at this time,
Yeah.
and I'm seeing this mist, and I don't want anybody to think I'm crazy. So I'm kind of like moving in the chair
Scooting
because it's
over.
coming towards my legs, and I'm just kind of squinching in the area. I look over, and Raven's staring at me, and
I was like worried about you.
Right.
Like, are you okay?
I'm like all hunched up because I don't want it to touch me again, you know?
Well, you had just had some weird things that you were saying in the Estes session.
Yeah.
You had this shadow thing that was hanging out over your shoulders, and now you're seeing a weird mist going on. I am legit worried about you at this point. are you on?
So, during this, the boys did see when they're down in the command center, the rest of the Chumming with the Spirits crew, they did say they did see an anomaly with the way the video was reading. It did flicker, and it did kind of make a change, so they could tell something was going on.
Yeah.
Nobody could see what I was saying, though.
I couldn't see it.
No.
Kind of bummed I couldn't see it.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, I was like, you see it, it's like there. And you're like, it's not there. You're just nuts. I'm like, no,
I never said
it's
that.
really there,
I don't say those things.
Yes, you did.
We don't parashame.
Parashame.
Yes. Yes. Patrick and I from the big seance came up with that. We don't parashame.
Parashame.
Yeah. There's no parashaming here. But yeah, no. I'm sorry I didn't see it. I really wish I would have.
It's fine.
But you said it looked like something was literally trying to form.
It was trying to form and manifestate a little bit, and then it would fall short, and it would just like melt down, and then it would try to form again, and it just couldn't, and it would just stop. It just kind of like leveled off.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, that was what happened. The room was lighter, I will say. We didn't have any more activity with the REM pods, with the K2 meters or anything like that.
Right.
And when I say lighter, I mean like lighter. Like the room just looked lighter. It wasn't as dark.
Felt lighter.
Felt lighter.
I didn't feel at ease. There's no way I would have fell asleep in that room. But I didn't feel at ease. It was just very comfortable again.
Yeah, that's 100%.
Right. So we started talking, and tell them about our theory about that earlier that day at the house.
Well, we were wondering. I mean, I guess whether we didn't know whether the Sallie House was going to be haunted or not.
And I was literally saying, "There's no way this place is haunted."
Yeah.
Because our initial walkthrough didn't have anything.
We didn't feel anything
No.
at all. So we didn't know if it was going to be haunted or what to expect at the Sallie House. But what we do know is that the house that we did go to before we went to the Sallie House,
The house we took a tour in
the house we took the tour
with the haunted items.
with the haunted items was haunted
Yeah.
because the energy in that place, you could feel it. You could definitely feel it.
You could not only feel it, it tingled in your bones. I mean, there is
It was there.
absolutely no doubt that you were not the only one in those rooms.
Yes, it was very heavy in some places. So, our theory, or what we, I guess, came up with,
Yeah.
or speculate if you want to say, is that when we went to this other house, did the tour, something could have latched onto us,
Yep.
and came to the Sallie House, and either if the Sallie House was haunted, it just ramped up whatever was going on there,
Yep.
or it was what was going on there.
Right.
Because now this spirit entity, whatever you want to call it, was now in the Sallie House with us.
That's correct.
So either way, we know that we were in a haunted location, and just being in that first house set us up for the second.
It did.
Yeah.
Now, you have to see the video, which will be uploaded soon,
Yeah.
to actually get the full effect and
How it's gonna be,
grasp exactly what was going on at the time.
Yeah, for sure.
But I would say, without a doubt, first of all, I would not spend the night at the Sallie House. I don't know if I'd go back,
Okay.
but I would say that the Sallie House is legitimately haunted.
I guess let's jump to our conclusion. I mean,
It's
for me, the orbs, I feel like you can explain away for the most part.
right.
The ones that we were seeing, the videos of some of the orbs, I don't think we can explain all of those.
No,
I mean-
and once you watch it, once it comes out, you'll see it's very hard to look at that and say, yeah, that's natural.
Yeah.
Of course, there's going to be people that say, oh, I can explain that. But when you're actually there and viewing it, it's a different aspect.
It sure is. Some of the other things that happened, okay, the Estes session, like Spirit Box. I mean, there were some things that you were saying that tied in directly to the house that we were in before.
Yes.
Which
Which you'll have to watch the video for. But
yeah, I don't want to explain too much on that one.
No.
that also being said, like the shadow like looming over you, that's something else in itself. Like those are really key pieces of evidence. For me, I mean, I'm really gonna just die on this hill. The kicker for me was going back up into that room after midnight and just feeling it, feeling all the feelings.
Yeah.
That for me was like the solidifying thing for me to say, this is haunted. Something is different here.
And I am not one to always says that things are haunted.
You are not.
I'm like, no, there's nothing here. We've been in places that were old, that are all decorated in the period that it would be, and I'm like, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm always saying that, no way. Just like on our way to the Sallie House, like, no, it's the house. There's no confirmation of a little girl that died there. There just isn't. You know, there might be a Sallie in a graveyard somewhere, but that doesn't mean that's that Sallie.
Sure.
You know? And there's conflicting stories about the Sallie House. But after literally being there, I can definitely say that during certain periods of the evening, it's an occupied house.
That's why I'm 100%.
What occupies it, I don't know.
100%.
But, you know, we have legitimate video evidence that it wasn't just us up in that room.
I 100%.
We felt it,
agree
we
with
seen
that.
it, we reacted to it.
I cannot wait until we get to see all of the footage because we are just fresh out of this investigation.
Yeah.
We have not seen all the footage yet.
And there could be more stuff comes up.
EVPs.
Yeah.
Gosh, I would love to. I really think we could have got some great EVPs.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear and see what else we got. But out of just what we were talking about, I think that was out of those things that we just talked about. That's enough evidence for me to
Absolutely.
say, if it wasn't haunted before, it definitely is now.
Well, that's our Sallie House investigation.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for joining us, and stay tuned. It's gonna be a little bit before we get all of the evidence.
There's
and
a lot
video.
of video.
There's so much to go through.
But we'll have little teasers up. Little bits and pieces.
But stay tuned for that. That'll be out at some point here soon. I hope.
Yes.
But whew, what an adventure that was.
Well, stay curious, stay aware, and most of all, my friends,
Stay safe out there.